Hey everyone, and welcome back to Joey's Retro Newscast, and I do this every Friday. We go over the top news of the week when it comes to retro handheld, retro gaming, everything to do with those little niches, and then sometimes some gaming stuff as well. Now, I am in an entirely new studio, so some things may be a little bit different for this newscast. I don't know yet. I am filming. Haven't gotten to the editing part yet, so we'll see how I have to bring this all together. But I am in a new studio, which you'll probably see in my next video, so just keep that in mind. But I'll get it all working. We'll get there. There might be some growing pains, so I apologize. Now, I want to do a very quick shout out to the Old Man Gamers group. Apparently, it's a group of old man gamers, and I asked them if they wanted some sort of Discord shout out or something so people know about it. They said no. So I don't know how you get into this group. I assume you just need to be old and then somehow stumble into the Discord and wherever these people are. But yeah, I just want to give them a shout out. So good job, old people. You're doing great by not letting anybody in. Very old of you. Emulation Station version 3.4.0 is now out. And as far as Android goes, they've added PS3, Steam games, Epic Store games, and some other things, as well as the ability to launch games on the other screen for dual screen devices, like the AYN Thor and so on. There are some other things that they added here, like experimental support for running RetroArch in multi-user setups, which I am not exactly sure what that means and what that does, but it's there. So Emulation Station, updating, doing some things here. Again, this isn't just Android, but those are the Android changes that I think matter to most of us. In super sexy news, Dolphin Android Retro Achievements. It's here, kind of. It's here. So thanks to a user, Pink Dan, who shared this on my Discord, there is a build out there right now that you can get off the GitHub that has Retro Achievements on Android for Dolphin games, which is GameCube, not Wii. And all that means is right now, we are getting very close to that. I don't know what very close means. I assume probably still a few months if I had to make a guess. But the fact that you could literally right now go and build it and play Retro Achievements on Android for Dolphin is huge. So for anybody who's been waiting for that, I would probably suggest maybe still wait because there's probably some bugs and all of that. This is not even a build that they have announced or anything like that. It's just one we found. So keep that in mind. Maybe don't go bug them about this. The developers of SprigUI have made a new custom firmware for the Miu Mini Flip called SprigUI. And basically, it's just SprigUI, but Sprig is my understanding. I have not had the chance to play around with this yet, but if I'm going by what I would guess, it would be SprigUI just on the Miu Mini Flip, which does give you another option if maybe Onion OS is not ready yet, which it isn't ready yet. You have Onion OS that you could put on the Miu Mini Flip, but there are some things missing. I don't know how much Spruce or Sprig has added as far as lid support and all of that, but you can check it out if you want and try it out. Odin version 0.0.4, release candidate 2, is now out. And in this update, they have made sure to make you know that the fixes for Pokemon ZA is not in there yet. Otherwise, it does look like there are a lot of bug fixes in this release, a critical bug for Linux users, slight performance increases for shader compilation, and fixes for audio cutoffs on Steam Deck. So that's kind of it right now. Maybe wait for the next update whenever that comes out. That's probably a bigger one. As usual, whenever Odin does an update, Citron does an update. So we have two Switch emulators just going on and competing with each other. This one includes native ARM64 support for Windows in Citron, which is pretty cool. But also, they are doing Snapdragon 8 Elite support now. So it looks like there are some games that probably will get some support and benefits with Snapdragon 8 Elite. I'm very curious to know what that might be, if maybe they had just copied Odin's code of what they did on their end, and now they're bringing it to Citron. I am not sure. Either way, that's pretty cool. There's also per-game cheat management that they've added in, firmware, 20 to 21 support, and a few other things. So, again, Odin, Citron, if you're in that Switch ecosystem, try them both out, see which one comes out ahead for each game. Last on the software news is GameHub is now on the Google Play Store, which is actually pretty good because installing GameHub before from that weird Chinese website was a little sketchy. GameHub on Play Store is a lot better. Now, my understanding, and I have not looked into this, but my understanding is that you cannot import your own folders in this version. That seems to be only a thing if you download it off of their website. So just keep that in mind. It's not something that I would personally use because I install all of my games through Steam. But if you are somebody who is using GOG, for example, I think that's a limitation with the Play Store version. So double check that if that's a scenario that you're in. Okay, so question of the week this week. And it was something that I just thought about an hour or so ago when we were having a conversation on the Discord. We were talking about kind of handhelds and how they're going in the future, and it looks like SteamOS is likely coming to ARM devices, so you could see a way to put SteamOS on an Odin 2 Portal, an AYN Thor, that sort of thing, within the next year. If that happens, and given how the landscape of gaming is right now for handhelds, what do content creators and what do reviews look like in the future? Because in my head, what I'm imagining is this same time next year, when all these devices come out and suddenly retro emulation isn't something that you can benchmark anymore, like all handhelds just run it. If everything comes out and it's past an 8 Gen 2, even a Snapdragon 865, that's all retro emulation covered. So are all the reviews just going to be like, well, here is Final Fantasy VII using GameHub or SteamOS at 30 FPS, and suddenly you have a new device that came out and now it's at 32 FPS. Are we going to go down the PC handheld benchmarking road for handhelds? It's very interesting to think about, stuff that I think about. That is the most boring thing that I could ever think of, but at some point in the next year or two, emulation benchmarking is just not going to be a thing that we care about anymore because all handhelds are going to be able to do it. So we're going to hit that point where what do you benchmark next? What do you get to next? That's an unfortunate part of this hobby that's coming up soon. So I want to know in the comments, what do you think about all of that? Do you see that happening pretty soon? Do you see that being a future thing? And is it a jump off point for a lot of you where at that point, it's not exciting anymore. The only exciting things are things like the AYN Thor, which are a dual screen device that does something new. That's where my excitement comes because it is something new. But how much more can we do on that front? So let me know in the comments what you think about this whole thing. TrimUI has given a lot more information on the TrimUI Smart Pro S that is coming out in pretty soon. They sent me an email. I have a review unit coming. I don't know exactly when and all of that. I chose the green one though, so they'll be sending me the green color. These colors look really nice. I'm really excited about that. However, from what I've seen pricing wise, even trimui.net, the website, $100 for this, that is going to be a very tough sell, especially compared to things like the Magni Air X, which has a lot more performance, IE Neo Pocket Air Mini, which I'm not sure how it compares to this, but I think it's better, all of that sort of thing. So this is going to be a very interesting scenario. Now, for those of you that weren't around for the TrimUI Smart Pro launch, it launched at a high price, but then a few months later, it was at a half price, like 40 to 50 on AliExpress. So maybe it'll be the same scenario here. Now, last week we covered the specs of the TrimUI Smart Pro S, but there was one thing that I noticed this week that was very interesting. They have TMR sticks, which I don't remember if we covered last week. If so, I forgot about it. But TMR sticks, that is a nice upgrade over the Vita sticks that the TrimUI Smart Pro S had before. So, hey, there is something. There is upgrades here, just maybe not $100 worth. Either way, I will let you know pretty soon because my review unit will be here pretty soon. Now, speaking of review units, my AYN Odin 3 has shipped. So that is going to be arriving, I think DHL said Monday, which means it'll be either Monday, Sunday, Tuesday, DHL is a little weird for me. They give me a date and they never hit that date. So I don't know what day it will be coming, but we'll do the usual thing. We'll do the live stream, we'll do first impressions, we'll do the review, all of that fun stuff. So keep an eye out for my Odin 3 review. And it'll be a good example of what I talked about in the question of the week. What do you test an Odin 3 on? We know, emulation-wise, it's going to run everything except we have some things to talk about when it comes to OpenGL RetroArch cores and OpenGL emulators, because things like Nintendo 64 and OpenGL RetroArch are not going to run. They just don't run. You get a black screen. So we'll be doing that sort of testing, but once all those bugs get fixed out, What do people care about? It's going to be GameHub, I'm guessing. So I guess I'll have to do some GameHub stuff. As much as I don't really care too much about that, I might have to sneak in some stuff about GameHub in the review, because I think that's what you guys care about. But let me know what is on your mind for an Odin 3 and what you want to see. Now, Steam announced some stuff this week. There was a Steam machine, a Steam controller, and then a Steam VR thing. I think it's called the Steam Frame. I think you can tell by my tone that I really don't care at all about any of these three things. But for the sake of the newscast, I am going to tell you that they are released or announced, so they will be coming out in some point in 2026. Now, as far as actual information on all three, you'll probably want to check out different websites and all of that. There are a ton of information out there on three different things, so you don't really need me to tell you about them. The one interesting part to me out of all three, because I don't need a Steam machine, I have a gaming PC, so it's a waste. I don't need a Steam controller because it looks kind of ugly. I might try it out, but it's not that great. And I don't need VR. I have tried VR many times. It is a gimmick to me. It's not something I care about. But the one thing that is very interesting that they talked about is that SteamOS is ready for ARM, because that's what Steam Frame is using. It's using a Snapdragon, 8 Gen 3 or something chip, which means they have SteamOS running on ARM. What that means for us is that we might see SteamOS on Odin 2 portals, AYN Thors, Conkers, all of those sorts of devices. That is the interesting part out of all of this. And they already said that it's already built. You can build it yourself. So as soon as they release all of that, I could see either SteamOS or maybe Bazite or whatever coming to these devices. And that's where things get interesting. Now, for those of you that don't know, SteamOS it's not really good to dual. I don't even know if you can dual boot it right now with Windows. Like, it's kind of a mess, that whole situation. So when it comes to Android and ARM devices, I can imagine it's going to be a similar thing. You might not be able to dual boot SteamOS and Android at the same time, which means you might have to choose one or the other, at least in the beginning. I'm not sure how this is going to work out. Are you willing to give up all of Android for SteamOS? I know a lot of people probably will, but then at that point, these are just becoming PC handhelds. And so you're going to start to realize really quickly the limitations of the current fans in these devices, which are not meant to run PC games. So that's why they struggle a lot. The heat management in these devices, which again, not meant to run PC games. And you'll start to see all of these limitations. So I think 2026, 2027, we're going to see a lot more devices that are built like PC handhelds in ARM devices. And that'll be interesting to see. But at that point, we are just mixing up two different worlds. And I'm not sure what the right answer is there. There is a world where it's cool to have a lot of indie games running on an AYN Thor, an Odin 2 portal, all of that, indie PC games. But on the other side, you're not going to be running a lot of the higher end stuff without cooking your device, which is something that is currently happening with people that are using GameHub on these devices. So it's a catch-22 in a lot of this, but very interesting stuff. SteamOS on ARM is nothing but good. So I'm very curious to see what happens next in this space when all of this comes out. Now, as I do every week, I remind you that we are playing games on the Discord. Yes, we do use these devices to play games like The Legend of Zelda, Phantom Hourglass, newer Super Mario Bros. DS, and The Legend of Dragoon. So if that sounds good to you, come play some games. That's what we're doing there. Okay, as always, we end off the newscast with the newscast Q&A. You can send in your questions, newscast@joeysretrohandhelds.com, or there's a Discord channel in the Discord. You can send it in through there. This question comes in from Liz. You've talked about your problems with the lack of journalistic ethics in the retro handheld sphere. So what are some specific things that the bigger channels could do to improve? I am going to bow out of this one, and for a very specific reason. Everybody just wants to make the videos that they want to make. Looking at the whole journalistic ethics thing is not going to work. It's not going to work because there isn't a blanket thing that you could say or do. You either have it or you don't. And it's not something that you're going to teach somebody who just wants to make videos about playing with a handheld. So I think I'm going to give up that whole line of thinking at this point because nothing to be gained from it. So people can do whatever they want to do. It's up to viewers to decide whether to trust or not to trust the actual content creator presenting the information. But I will tell you that it's an uphill battle. It's a waste of time because there are so many channels out there that really are not out for your interests as a consumer. They have said as much, they do as much, and it doesn't matter. They get the views, they get the looks, they get all of that. So it does not matter what I could tell you here, because it's not something that's going to change anybody's mind. So it'll be up to you as a consumer to just kind of suss all of that stuff out. And I do that on my end. Like I don't watch a lot of YouTube and all of that sort of thing, but I can instantly tell what channel is looking out for me and what channel is just looking for a bag. And whatever, get your bag. But I mean, I'm not going to watch you if that's your goal, if that's what you're here for. It's not what I want. Sorry, Liz. I wish I had a better answer for you, but that's kind of what I got. That's going to be it for this one. So as usual, do the whole like and sub thing, subscribe to my YouTube membership if you like my stuff and all of that fun stuff. But I appreciate you all for watching. And that's all from me, Cork, Ireland.